Hi everyone, it's Enoch Miller, your Empress West Hollywood, for another amazing episode of Holding Court with the Empress. We're really excited to be having you all here today. We want to thank our amazing sponsors, GayLifeLA.com, where you can find all the information for all your gay and LGBT needs here in the greater Los Angeles area. Also, we want to thank White Rabbit Partners for this amazing studio where we get to put this show on every week for you guys. Also, if you haven't checked it out yet, make sure you get your latest edition of the West Hollywood magazine. It is amazing for all your summer guide staycation needs. So everywhere you want to eat, shop, play, or stay here in West Hollywood, check it out. It's available at most hotels. A lot of the places and the retail stores around here have them as well. And if you don't, you can always email me or message me on the EmpressOfWeHo Facebook page, and I can help try and figure out where you can pick one up today. So check it out, West Hollywood Magazine, and it's the latest summer edition staycation guide. I am here with my very amazing guest, the Executive Director of the Los Angeles Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, Marquita Thomas. Hi, Marquita.
Hey.
I'm so excited to have you on, and honestly, to talk about a really amazing topic of LGBT-owned businesses, because a lot of people don't understand how much our community is shaped by the local businesses we have. In your perspective from gay-owned and operated businesses here in the greater Los Angeles area, what do most people not realize or even really know about how to be a run or owned gay LGBT-owned business?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for having me
Of
here
course.
today. I'm very excited to talk about LGBT businesses, and I think the knowledge of what it means to be an LGBT business or the buying power of the LGBT community as a whole is misunderstood nationwide.
Yeah.
So let me just share some general information about just the LGBT community. It's recently been released that the LGBT community in the U.S. has a spending power of over $1 trillion.
Oh, wow.
And to put that into perspective, the African American community also has the spending power of about $1 trillion.
Okay.
But when you look at the diverse communities proportionate to their population size, the LGBT community has a spending power of 4 times that of the African American community.
Oh, wow.
Because we only make up about 3% of the U.S. population. African American community makes up about 14.3.
Okay.
So the LGBT community as a whole has 4 times the spending power of the African American and Hispanic markets, and twice the spending power of the Asian community.
Oh, wow.
So it's a big deal, and we're a very important market. So you see a lot of corporations trying to sell to us,
Right.
whatever, because we have a lot of spending power, and then on the other side of that, they're also trying to buy from us now.
Right.
So that's the one thing that people really aren't understanding about being an LGBT business owner, is that the doors have now been opened for LGBT businesses to do more business with corporations, government agencies, public utilities, local municipalities. And not only is it exciting, it's important, because a thriving LGBT business is not just good for your personal legacy,
Right.
But it also helps you be philanthropic, give back to your community, support, the LA Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce,
Right.
or the center or something like
Exactly.
that. And not only that, though, the other thing that's so important about having a thriving LGBT business and having these resources available to LGBT businesses is that it also helps you create jobs.
Right.
And that's very important, job creation.
Right.
And not just job creation, which is important to the economy just in general, but it helps you employ
Right.
other LGBT people.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're aware that the trans community in particular is the most underemployed segment of our community. So a thriving LGBT business then allows you to employ people who are being shut out from employment opportunities elsewhere.
Yeah, and speaking of the Gay and Lesbian Chamber, it's an amazing organization because the fact that it does really go out of its way to support gay-owned, operated LGBT businesses. It's a membership-based nonprofit organization. It's a 501c6, not to be confused with a regular nonprofit, which is a C3. A lot of people don't realize there's a differentiation between those two.
Sure.
They go and work towards growing LGBT and allied businesses through networking, education, and advocacy events. And another thing that I was really impressed by what you guys work toward is different types of either corporate or global or international contracts where businesses will actively seek out the Gay and Lesbian Chamber to want to partner with a gay-owned and operated business. How is there any kind of examples you can give on some of those that you've recently done within the last, maybe like last year or last few months?
Sure. So just to put that in context, because I think a lot of people, I think that might have gone over a lot of people's heads, just to really quick, what that means is that traditionally the minority spend for corporations has been for companies owned by a racial minority, women-owned businesses, and veterans. That now includes LGBT small businesses, which is, I mean, that's
huge.
It's a newer certification. It's not federally recognized, but there are a lot of opportunities in California.
Right.
So some of the advocacy that we do is around legislature like AB 1678 and AB 53, which included LGBT people in the supply chains of the companies that comprise the California Public Utilities Commission and national insurance companies. So I'm sorry, your question was what
the LGBT Chamber does to foster those types of contracts. Yeah, those examples.
So we advocated for 1678, which Governor Brown signed in, believe it was Labor Day weekend of 2015. We advocated for that legislature. We also advocated for 53. We spoke in front of the state assembly to because that legislature was going to sunset, and there was a possibility of LGBT small businesses not continuing with that legislature. So we spoke before the state assembly. Our president flew up to Sacramento 5 o'clock in the morning and spoke before the state assembly and was on the ground and at our mixer that evening. So we advocate for that inclusion to remain. And there's some more legislature that's coming down the pike to get more companies and more entities to include LGBT people. So some of the great examples that we've had, I mean, we've had LGBT, one of our members has done work with the Super Bowl when they were, Super Bowl 50, I believe it was. So one of our members worked with Super Bowl 50. We've had members work with Facebook. We have a she's a current member. I'm sorry, current member. She works with Office Depot.
Oh, wow.
So if you buy something off of OfficeDepot.com, it's likely that you're buying directly from her. Some of the other examples, we have some pending opportunities with SoCal Gas, for instance. And we're going to the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce Conference this weekend.
In Vegas, right.
In Vegas, yeah. And there will be matchmaking. Our members will be having matchmaking interviews with everybody from Exxon to Monsanto to Marriott, Bloomingdale's, and so forth and so on. So if you're a certified supplier, LGBT certified supplier, you can sit down and have a meeting and say, this is my capability statement, this is how I would like to work with you, and potentially get a contract with those entities. And there was, I think, like 150 or something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's amazing.
That's an amazing thing. And you mentioned the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce. Could you explain the difference between kind of I guess what your roles are, because obviously national means national, and you guys are the local chapter of the Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, but is there a big distinction between the two organizations, or is it pretty much you're just a subset of that national level? We
work together. They're a partner organization. They're not a governing organization. We're actually older than they are.
Oh, wow.
But they
because you guys are in 1979.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
Okay.
So they are the only certifying body for LGBT businesses.
Okay.
But we work locally to get more of those businesses. So when you're getting certified through national, but we are the ones who are going to give you the information. We have business education seminars where we teach you what certification is. You're going to get that information from us. We're going to do the site visit for you. We're going to connect you with some local executives who can look over your paperwork and say, this is how I would respond if this came across my desk. And that's invaluable.
Yeah.
You know, because you don't get that sort of access anyplace else.
No, and that's the thing, especially too, when you have those one-on-one sessions, because a lot of times it's a smaller business. LGBT-owned businesses aren't typically huge corporations, quite honestly, because a lot of the bigger corporations, they have LGBT benefits, but they're not necessarily gay run-owned or operated or anything like that. What do you find with an LGBT owned and operated business do you see as their biggest struggle or their biggest hurdle they have to overcome?
Well, to address the first part of your statement is that a lot of people feel like because I'm a solopreneur, I only have 2 employees, I can't do business with a corporation. That's not necessarily true. You may not get a tier 1 opportunity,
right?
Or maybe you will. I don't know.
Yeah,
it
exactly.
depends. It's a case by case basis. But there are tier 2 opportunities, which means if I'm doing a huge contract with SoCal Gas, I still need an accountant. I still need someone to do my travel.
Right.
I still need to buy paper.
Right.
I still need all of those services that I would need if I was doing business with anyone else.
Right.
The fact that you're a tier 2 vendor, you go to their LGBT minority spend as well.
Got it.
So don't think that because you're doing your business from your kitchen,
right,
that you can't potentially have a tier 2 opportunity. Some of the biggest issues for LGBT businesses, honestly, the reality of the situation is LGBT businesses are not that much different from other businesses. I mean, you're not, writing insurance policies different because you're LGBT.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's all the same business, but for what they have to deal with, putting themselves out there that they are gay owned and operated.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yes. So the only difference that what would be a hurdle for an LGBT business is how open are you about the fact that you're LGBT? Do you, when you're talking to customers, for instance, and your partner works with you, do you introduce that person as your husband, or do you just introduce that person as your business partner?
Got it.
Do you put up a rainbow flag? Or, as a small business, you have a platform. Do you use your platform to talk about LGBT issues? So that is an issue for LGBT business owners, definitely. But beyond that, like I said, it's just, it's the same hurdles as anybody else. A lot of small businesses close with between 2 to 5 years.
Right.
So that's what the chamber works to do, is to help you get the resources that you need so that you don't your business doesn't close in 2 to 5 years, whether it's access, connection to other possible strategic partners, access to capital, advocacy, whatever it is that we can do to help you, we're there.
Yeah, and the great thing about, I think our area in general is we don't just have one chamber. We have a litany of different chambers for our different locations. Mm-hmm. A lot of people I know are multiple members of different chambers.
Sure.
And especially for what you guys operate here, and not just for Los Angeles as a whole, but for the West Hollywood community. It's a big LGBT industry around here with people that are vendors and owners and people that work together here. For the LGBT community in West Hollywood, do you see anything changing where people now are starting to spend, or where people are starting to go for business? Because places like Long Beach are now starting to have a bigger LGBT community, downtown Silver Lake, and actually spreading out from kind of the center. Do you see spending changing, or is it still staying pretty much where it's always been?
We cover the entire Los Angeles footprint, but West Hollywood is where most of our members live, work, or play.
Got it.
That's all. And so most of our mixers that are here, they continue to be the most popular.
Got it.
And that's been true since I joined the chamber, since I came to the chamber in 2009. West Hollywood holds a very special place for many of our members, and whether it's our hospitality partner Pump, or our partner the Abbey, or any Mondrian, Grafton, whatever, those are our most well populated. But I will say that a lot of our members are asking that we do more stuff downtown. So
so it's starting to kind of I guess not necessarily migrate, but kind of maybe transition to some different areas now. You're starting to see.
You know what? I think it's more about comfort.
Got it.
People have always worked downtown. That's never been. But now there's there are more gay clubs out there.
True.
It's definitely very accepting, and so I feel like people don't have that worry about going to a gay chamber mixer downtown.
Right.
So they're like, come on down here. I'm going to take the train down, to West Hollywood or whatever. So, yeah, we're doing a lot of stuff in DTLA. We don't do as much in the beach areas, but we're looking to change that. We've done a couple of things in the valley.
Right.
So we're trying to cover all the ground. But it's a huge footprint.
Oh, well, you can imagine. And do you find for the chamber itself, it's a harder for you guys to try and be everything to all these different, because there's 89 different cities in the greater Los Angeles area. Mm-hmm. How do you feel the Gay Lesbian Chamber, as a chamber itself, does for all its businesses, trying to make sure you at least try and be as much as you can to all people, but obviously you can't do everything
Sure.
at once.
Well, it's we do a lot of things. We have amazing events.
Right. I've been to them. They're
we
fun.
We do great events, but we're also connecting our members, making sure they're developing strategic alliances. We're also, doing the advocacy.
Right.
So there is a lot going on, but I always tell the members, a lot of people are just like, well, I can't get to all the events.
Right.
And I'm like, that's not the value of your membership. The value of your membership is in the fact that we're working for you while you're sleeping. We're
Right.
advocating for you to be able to do these major contracts,
Right.
and to partner with people who are doing major getting large contracts, whatever. That is the value of your membership. So whether you never come to an event, never come to an educational seminar, don't maximize all of the litany of benefits that we provide to you or whatever, we are the only organization advocating for
Right.
LGBT businesses, and that is, and if you feel like we're doing that, we would really appreciate your continued support.
Yeah, and it's what I love about the organization the most is the fact that, as big of a footprint as you guys have, that's the one thing you guys do very, very well. You're very well about connecting people and getting the information to them and letting them know, hey, either this bill is coming around, we need your support, or hey, we need you to come speak at something, or paying attention to, hey, this stuff might be out there, and what you guys are going to be doing here in Vegas of connecting LGBT-owned businesses to all these different partners that they could potentially be available for. It's not an easy job, and I know from lots of different chambers, the hardest thing they have to do is advocacy, because it's a never-ending battle.
Right.
It's always something you're having to work towards, and businesses really they can't always come out, and sometimes, like you said, it's a smaller-owned business. It's not something you can readily just get up and leave it. You have to basically be there 24/7 almost, and the fact that they don't have to show up, and it's really just you guys providing this amazing service, which is really great. So for LGBT culture, a little bit away from business, but for culture as a whole for the greater Los Angeles area, it's really kind of just blown up, I feel personally, through different areas like we had said, like Silver Lake, downtown, Long Beach, the other different areas. Where do you see kind of the future of the LGBT community for the greater Los Angeles area? Do you see it expanding more to where it's not just WeHo anymore? It's downtown. Now it's all these other places. Do you see that expanding more, or do you see it just kind of like just getting out into a little bit of a bigger area and just kind of staying there for a while?
That's a great question. Like I said earlier, I really see DTLA really being the spot for, it's not the next wave. It's already here.
Right.
We've seen not only with the gay clubs that are down there, but also DTLA Pride.
Right.
That's coming up. DTLA Proud. That's coming up at the end of August. So it's a playground for
Right.
the LGBT community. I'm sure there's some new emerging space. I'm not really. I would really just have to say DTLA. I'm just really excited to see what continues to come out of that space.
Yeah, it's just DTLA really has just overall as a whole has really cleaned up its act, and really is just there's a new vibrant town now,
right,
where it's fun, it's bustling, there's new restaurants, new shops, new bars and nightclubs, and the fact that they have such a vibrant LGBT community is really impressive. And I've just been so surprised about also what Silver Lake's been doing. They've started building up a very east side community with the LGBT area over there. Long Beach as well has really kind of come into its own, even though it's been there for a while.
Yeah.
It's starting to become more notable as a place you have gay neighbors, or you have gay friends, or a gay-owned business down the street, and it's really coming into its own. For the community as a whole, with politics aside, with all the mess that goes on there, what do you feel is the I guess maybe the biggest obstacle we're dealing with just locally in our own neighborhoods around here?
Oh, wow. What are we dealing with? I think what we're dealing with locally is what we're dealing with nationally.
Okay, so it is more just from there to here.
We woke up to news this morning.
Yeah, I saw that with the transgender.
And it's just so disheartening. It's disheartening. There are 15,000 transgender people in the armed forces, and it breaks my heart that as a country we're telling people who are looking to serve, to lay down their lives, to leave their families and go to lands they're completely unfamiliar with, that they can't serve because of who they are. And I believe the 15,000 who are currently in the armed forces are protected.
As far as I'm aware, I haven't heard of anything changing with that.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know.
But this
just
would,
yet.
yes, this would not allow new people to come in.
Right.
So I'm thinking, if let's say we're just turning away tens of thousands of people who are literally willing to serve their country, and I feel like regardless of your politics, that's, as an American citizen, that's problematic, and that's something that we should all be using our platforms to speak up about. And my father was 82nd Airborne and did 3 tours in Korea, and was an Army captain, and I think he's spinning in his grave right now. And the fact that someone else is willing to do that, 3 tours in Korea,
exactly.
People are doing multiple tours in Afghanistan and other countries, and it's like I told somebody today, I mean, I'm not helping you fight in a bar. I'm not helping you fight overseas.
Right.
So you need to take everybody who's willing to help you fight,
exactly.
and not turn anybody away, because I'm not doing it.
Right.
And that's not because I'm not a patriotic person. It's like
that's
I'm
not what you
I'm
were meant
not,
to do.
It's not what I was meant to do. So those people who were meant to do that,
Yeah.
those people who are willing to do that.
And it just feels like we're honestly just stepping back in time, and it feels like it's like what the Black community went through of them not being allowed to be in the armed forces, and them not being allowed to be treated as human beings in what they were there for. They were wanting to lay down their lives for their country, the place where they lived, and it's a very disheartening thing. Besides,
I don't think a lot of people know that, though.
Oh, I doubt it.
I don't think a lot of people know that African Americans weren't allowed to serve in World War II.
No.
So they weren't. So it's just mind-boggling that you wouldn't just allow people to fight.
It's just people want. I mean, if someone wants to serve and someone wants to protect their country, why shouldn't they be allowed to do that?
Right.
It's exactly that.
Right.
For the LGBT businesses, what's the biggest issue you think they face on a local, besides trying to decide whether or not they want to be out and about, letting people know that they are gay-owned and operated business? What do you see for them, like their biggest struggle they've been having recently, or is there anything currently right now?
For business owners, overall, like I said, LGBT businesses are in a lot of ways the same as mainstream straight, LGBT business. I do know that there's an attack on LGBT employees, however.
Got it. Okay.
There are some protections that are being taken, and it just doesn't make any sense,
right.
There is that's a very volatile space right there. There's discrimination against LGBT employees is being allowed. There are many states where you could be fired for being LGBT.
Right.
There was.
It's across the board. It's a lot.
It's yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we could list all of the protections and all the rights that are being taken away from LGBT people right now. But for the LGBT business owner, I think by and large, what affects you as an LGBT
affects
anyone else. Affects anybody
else.
else.
Got it. Okay. So it's pretty much the same as any other regular business, which, I mean, it's always hard to differentiate because there is no difference, but sometimes there could be. It really kind of varies. But if anyone ever needs to know any information about assistance with trans individuals, if you're not a gay and owned operated business and you would like to know how to hire trans individuals, talk to the Los Angeles Gay and Lesbian Center. Drian Juarez is the one. I saw her presentation on it. It's an amazing presentation, very informative, and honestly it's just very educational, and it really helps gain perspective because a lot of people don't know, and a lot of people want to be acceptable and let those individuals come in, and they just don't know how to approach sometimes, or how do you say the right thing without sounding offensive, and just inadvertently saying something wrong, because that's always a big problem.
We're actually doing an event with Drian in November.
Oh, fantastic.
For our corporate partners to talk about that very thing, to talk about how to be sensitive, but not only that, but also how to deal with a transitioning employee.
Right.
There'll be some, like little workshops, whatever, and it'll be specifically for our corporate partners. So the LA Department of Water and Power, the SoCal Gas, Time Warner, all of our corporate partners will be there, and it's a space just for them.
Fantastic.
So we're just really excited to be working with Drian. She's a dream.
So if you guys ever want to get into that, reach out to Marquita at the laglcc.org. You can find the information for all the events they do. It's a lot of fun, and if you aren't a member, you should join.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a great resource, and honestly, it's
even if you don't have a business, though.
Yeah.
A lot of people like, oh, I don't have a business, whatever. But sometimes people sign up to be members just because they want to make more professional friends,
Yeah.
or just to support the organization, and just to do something different outside of kind of like the bar club scene.
Right.
Just connecting and just meeting people that they can support.
Yeah.
So it's like you go to an event, you meet a new dog walker or photographer or realtor, so.
Well, and it's the great thing because you never know who you might need to use someone for something you have down the road, and that's
Right.
what I love going to different chamber events, is because I might find the person I need that do my taxes,
Right.
or that has a great print shop, or different things like that. You never know who you might need or be able to help utilize
Right.
for something they have, and there's anyone and everyone comes to these things.
And it's a very loyal community.
It is
so
it
people
is.
are like, let me go to the chamber to find my next contractor.
Mm-hmm.
I got a text saying I need an optometrist, which, you can go to the laglcc.org and there's a search box right there. So I don't know why they're texting me, but I'm more than happy to help. I'm more than happy to help anytime. So I was like, these are our optometrists, because I got them all
Right.
in my head or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's people love, being able to say that they're recycling their dollars.
Yeah.
And it's not just, it's great to, because you want to support, but also it's nice knowing that you can pretty much assume, you don't know for sure, but you can pretty much assume the person you're giving your money to is not going to use your money for, anti-gay,
Right.
To support an anti-gay organization,
Right.
or you would hope so.
Right.
But, you know what I mean? But so it's great knowing
And that's
that.
well, and it's great, and it's again, it's the resource and the fact that the great thing about chambers is the fact almost always all the money you put into that chamber goes back into their local community,
Mm-hmm.
goes back into the local businesses, and it's what you guys do to help utilize business to support consumers, for consumers to support business, and it's just this great cycle effect back into revitalizing the community and spending your money where you want to spend it, and which is in your neighborhoods and the people you want to support, which is amazing. So to get off like a little bit about the chamber and the business community, and talk a little bit about you. So you yourself are originally from South Carolina, and then so you're like basically a Southern girl this whole time, because South Carolina, New Orleans, and then SoCal.
Here's the thing, I am a Southern girl, but I was raised by New Yorkers.
Oh, okay.
So I am Southern. I'm very Southern. I say y'all all the time, but my parents are New Yorkers,
Got it.
I've never slaughtered a pig or anything. You know what I mean? Like anything that you assume about Southern people, my parents are very New York.
Okay.
My parents very New York. So we went straight from New York. Actually lived in New Orleans before we got to South Carolina.
Oh, you did before that. Okay.
So we lived in New Orleans until I was about 9 or 10, and then we moved to South Carolina. I spent the formative years in South Carolina. And but yeah, my parents are New Yorkers.
Oh, okay.
So.
Well, in South Carolina too. South Carolina's beautiful. New Orleans. I mean, everyone knows New Orleans. New Orleans is an amazing place to go. But I've been to South Carolina before, and it's a really pretty area. It's very much just like, luscious and beautiful and just pretty. And really, what brought you out from? Because you were actually a theater major when you graduated college. But what brought you out to LA to do events and the stuff you've done with events?
Well, I came to LA for college,
Okay.
specifically for college. They found me, actually. I'd never heard of Oxnard College.
Okay.
Got a lookbook. I read through it. I thought it was an amazing school. I had never even heard of multiculturalism.
Right.
I was just
Right.
like, what is a multicultural college? It's
Right.
I don't know if some people may know this or not, but Barack Obama also went to Occidental.
Right.
So I got this lookbook, and I was like, yeah, I'm going there, and that's happening. And funny story about Oxy, actually. I decided I was going, and that was it, and that was all. And got no support, none. Like my teachers, my guidance counselor, everyone's like, "You're not going out to California." You know what I mean? Like I was like, "But I am going out to California." They're like, "Yeah, girl, you better." And so I filled out the application, and I just kind of sent it to them. I didn't have any money. I was like, 17 or something, and so I didn't even pay the application fee. I was just like,
let's see if it slides.
and they were like, "Come on, no, we're Occidental." And I was like, "This is great." I got in. And everyone was like, "How are you going to pay for this school? The school is outrageously expensive."
That's fantastic.
And so I worked my butt off in high school, but I got a free ride. So
fantastic.
And still, South Carolina was like, "But you got to get a plane ticket." I was like, "I don't care. I'm going to school. Like, I don't care what you guys say."
I will figure it
I
out.
will figure it out. So much kicking and screaming, no support, whatever. I came out here to go to Occidental College, and I graduated from Oxy.
And
some years ago.
Just a little while ago, not that long ago. But so the great thing about what you've gotten to do through your experiences, you've gotten to do some amazing event productions. Mm-hmm. You've done a lot of the stuff for women, mm-hmm. which is a big deal because, quite frankly, not enough is ever done, I feel, for women. And what are some of what you feel were your favorite events that you did for women?
Oh wow! So I came out later in life, and I started doing events for women immediately because I was like, it was one of those. You're gay, now what?
You're gay, now what?
And I was like, there's nothing to do, and
right.
So as a baby gay. I think I had figured out I was gay for like 6 months. I started throwing events, and but my favorite event that I ever did was I did the Seraphim Women's Music Festival for the city of West Hollywood for about 3 years. Did it in the park, the old park when it still had a baseball field. Got several awards for that music festival, brought in women from around the country, and I did that because I had a lot of friends who were musicians, and they would do women's festivals, but it always seemed like there was a max on the number of women of color who would be there, and so I was like, you know what, I'm going to find a festival where it's predominantly women of color, and I couldn't find one, so I was like, well, guess we're doing a festival. And I had no clue how to do a festival. I didn't know anything about music festivals. I didn't even know how the sound got from the stage to the people. Like I was like, I don't know anything about speakers or, and so yeah, I did that for the city for about 3 years, and that was probably, and then my first Dinah Shore party I threw is probably my favorite. Was just really overwhelmed by the event, and it turned out fantastic. But Seraphim was just really great because it wasn't a local event. Right. It wasn't a local talent. I brought in women from Chicago, and New York. Oh, I brought in this black lesbian rock band who they literally came off tour with Iggy Pop.
Wow.
They lived in the base. They got off the plane from performing with Iggy Pop. They landed, they got in the car, and they drove down from the Bay Area to perform on the stage. I had Asian hip-hop performers. I had, African-American rockers. I had a Sri Lankan poet. Oh, wow. Like, it was just like everything. It was just whatever. It just like was so different and so much fun, and people really responded to it very well.
That sounds like a blast too. And the fact that you were able to mix cultures as well is really exciting, because too many times you don't get a lot of that. And I do like what because you are also on the board for Christopher Street West, mm-hmm. which, if anyone doesn't know, they're the ones that put on LA Pride every year, and you guys work towards bringing multiple different types of culture, different types of the community, from sober to gay to lesbian to bisexual to transgender to straight, to anyone. And I really appreciate when you guys kind of bring that fun atmosphere, because then it gives you a little piece about that. And it's really interesting to watch, like when you have the Hispanic stage or you have the R&B stage, and it's just, it brings that whole diversity together, mm-hmm. to where it's a little bit of everything for everyone as much as possible. Mm-hmm. You also sit on a ton of committees. You're also on the Gay and Lesbian Advisory Board, mm-hmm. the LGAB. You're on you were on I have it right here. One moment, please. The Lesbian Visibility Committee for the City of West Hollywood. Mm-hmm. And you actually, before, which I thought was when I didn't realize you did this, before you were the executive director for the chamber, you were the president. Yes. And you sat on the board for that. How long were you on the board for that one?
So I was a board member my first year. Okay. I was voted in.
That's me.
Oh, sorry. I was voted in as president my second year, uh-huh. and I was president for 2 years. My second year as president, I tripled membership, and the board wanted to keep the momentum, so they didn't want me to, transition off the board because of term limits or anything like that. Yeah. So they said, well, would you come on as staff? Yeah. And I was like, absolutely.
Because you actually do, you're a marketing brand advisor, is what your business mm-hmm. is marketing and branding. Because there really isn't a whole lot of difference between being the executive director for the chamber and marketing and branding, because a lot of what you have to do is mm-hmm. marketing and branding for the chamber. What did you feel was your biggest passion with that, with marketing and branding? What made you kind of gear more towards doing that as your career?
Honestly, it was because when I when I don't even think I came out, I realized I didn't, because I was in my late 20s. I started doing a lot of work in the LGBT community, and I built a brand online.
Got it.
When social media was new, and I had a national presence accidentally. And I was just like, this is not hard. People have to go to school for this. And I was just like, well, let me teach other people how to brand themselves, how to market themselves, how to use social media, how to use the channels that are available to them effectively, so that they can increase their visibility as well. So it came about accidentally, based on what I had done for myself.
Got it. Yeah. So it just kind of fell into it basically,
yeah,
but it ended up becoming a passion, which is really exciting. And then just to talk a little bit, being what I love when I've talked to you before about your background, again, not necessarily coming out as a lesbian, but discovering, hey, okay, I'm a lesbian, and I love the fact of you talk about that, because you had dealing with issues of being an African American woman before you had to deal with the issues of being a lesbian African American woman, and the fact that that whole kind of identity, what did you feel was either the most empowering part about it, or really just the easiest part about it for you coming out as a lesbian woman?
I got asked a similar question when I did the AEG LGBT panel, and it was interesting. Like, so they were asking what your gay superpower is.
Okay.
Like, what is it? What superpower do you have because you're gay?
Got it.
And there were certain, like, a lot of the answers I was just kind of listening to from my fellow panelists. And I was just like, I got all those superpowers by being African American.
Got it.
And it was like what they were basically saying was, being able to empathize with other communities and all that sort of thing. And I was just like, yeah, I've been empathizing with other communities because I know what it feels like to be marginalized. I knew what a microaggression was, a million years ago. So I know the ways in which people try to make you feel small.
Yeah.
The ways that people assume that whatever you're doing doesn't have merit because it's you, and you look different, or you are different. Growing up in South Carolina, the racism is subtle. It's very subtle racism. They're microaggressions, as they're called. Those experiences growing up in the South, being an African American woman, fully prepared me for the things that occur in the marginalized space of being an LGBT person.
Right.
So.
And I mean, you're the triple threat of minorities, quite frankly, a woman, lesbian, African American, and it's really just, it's empowering to listen to your story because of the fact that it's just like you didn't have to worry about having all these insecurities. Like you said, your superpowers were already developed way before you would even had to worry about developing them for becoming out as a lesbian woman. So I really love listening to your story because, it's encouraging, but also it's a great example to go, you know what? I don't need to let this bother me. I don't need to let you bother me. I am here. I'm proud. I'm strong. Deal with it, and if you don't like it, get the hell out of my way.
You're right about that. It doesn't. But having said that, though, it doesn't make some of those situations any less.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't make.
You know
it
what I mean?
easier.
Like it's not that they like
it's still always
completely just bounce off. You know what I mean?
Right.
There is this feeling of why, like you know what I mean, like you don't know anything about me.
You're better prepared for it.
You are better prepared for it, but there are just certain things that you can never really prepare for.
Right, honestly, that's true, yeah.
And, and it's interesting, like, some of the things that happen. So, the way people marginalize each other, not just within sexual orientation. So I was in a 7-Eleven, for instance, and the gentleman behind the counter, he was really upset, and he turned to me, and he said something about, he was talking, the gentleman who had just walked away wouldn't take the change out of his hand.
Oh.
Which is something I'm very familiar with because I grew up in the South. Now, he didn't know that. He was just talking to the next person in line.
Right.
And maybe because I'm African American, I don't know. But I already knew what he was talking about. You know what I mean? I totally got it because in the South, they often won't give you your change in your hand.
Got it.
They'll put it on the counter
and have you pick it up off the
and
counter.
have you pick it up.
Right.
And they're telling you in that
Well, you said that microaggression.
There's a microaggression. They're telling you in that exchange, I don't even want to accidentally touch you.
Got it.
I'll take your money.
Right.
I'm not going to accidentally touch you. So, that wasn't a situation where I was connecting with an LGBT person, but it was a situation where it was just like, I totally understand where you're coming from,
Yeah. And it's a lot of people don't pay attention to that stuff and really don't even think it through until it actually happens, which is, honestly, it happens all around us constantly, unfortunately. As a lesbian woman, what do you feel is not necessarily the biggest struggle about the lesbian community in the greater Los Angeles area, but what do you feel is the next step for the community, for lesbians here to, because again, I feel like it is, and unfortunately I'm guilty of this, it's a gay male dominated world sometimes around here, especially in West Hollywood. It's our big gay sandbox, and we like to play in it, and we don't like anyone else playing it. But because again, there's no lesbian bars anymore in the West Hollywood or in the greater, that I am aware of in the greater Los Angeles area, and really it's only nights or different things. What do you feel is the next step for the lesbian community to kind of push back out there and say, hey, we're here, we're a part of this community as much as anyone else, and we deserve our voice? Like, what is I don't want to say struggle, but I guess it is. What's the biggest struggle with all that?
That's a great question too. I think it's just about visibility. I think it's about people who have space sharing it.
Got it.
So if you have a platform, if you have a venue, if you have an event, incorporating women and not having it just be your, whether it, having it just be a male space or whatever. Whether it's, the women are upstairs and the men are down. I totally get people wanting to be around their own. Like, I totally get men wanting to be around other men. But, if this is an upstairs, downstairs, maybe you could have the women upstairs. Or maybe you could have the women in this room and that room. Or, just opening up your space and thinking and just asking people, like, what do they want to do? And what do they want to have? And just, just reaching out, I think is more than, is the most important thing. But I would love for there to be at least one lesbian bar somewhere, so hopefully that'll change sometime soon.
And I do agree. We had one of our guests, Elizabeth, who works at the chapel, and she said the same thing when they have altar girls on Wednesday. The one thing she gets annoyed by is the fact that's like, I get it, it's a gay bar, whatever, but it's girls' night. I would like to be there with my girls and hang out with my girls and not have to worry about guys coming in and trying to hit on them, or just a bunch of annoying gay guys being in there stomping on it's their night. And I don't feel like that. You're right, there needs to be more, not just for just lesbians, but for women in general in the community, because it is like that. And what would be one piece of advice you could give to either just like a just coming out lesbian woman, or something for anyone having an issue with being marginalized as either a lesbian or a woman? What would be one piece of advice you can give them to say, here's how you can either overcome that, or a way to be stronger because of it?
I just say kick down the doors.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Just kick down all the doors. Just because no one else has done it before doesn't mean anything. Create your own space.
Yeah.
Hold your own space. Whatever. If you've identified something that needs to be done, just do it.
Yeah.
And don't wait for permission. So, like I said, just kick down all the doors. That's what I did. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love one of the quotes you've said before is failure is not an option.
Yeah.
And it's like you don't have to feel like you're going to be put in a corner, or don't let anyone put you in a corner.
Right.
And just do it.
Right.
And I think honestly that's what the LGBT community as a whole sometimes gets backed into, is we wait for someone else to do it. We want the older community, or we want someone else that has been there and done that. Like, you take it over. No, we need to take initiative and do it as well. And it's just really inspiring to see your story and hear the different things you talk about, because you have such an amazing perspective, and the fact that you have perspective is refreshing too, because a lot of people just hide themselves in a corner and don't address it, or don't speak out against it.
And I don't want them to do that. I want to see some more fresh, new whatever.
Exactly.
I was first of a lot of things. First women's music festival in LA, the first LGBT local hero for KCET.
Yes, that was
fantastic. Staff for the chamber. I'm African American lesbian in a space dominated by predominantly white gay men.
Yep.
The first person to notice these lights just turned
Yep.
off. It's just, and it's not even. It's just. I shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I should not have been the first of any of those things. There should have been more first before that. So I'm excited to see what this new generation does.
Yeah.
Not even the new generation. I mean, even the older generation, creating new spaces,
Right.
new outlets, new content, new everything. I mean, I feel like we're underserved even in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
People are often saying to me like, I thought Los Angeles would have all this stuff.
Right.
And it's like,
Yeah. That's true. Well, everyone out there listening, make sure you get out there, do your best. If you don't see something going on, find a way to get involved and find a way to make it happen. Especially in West Hollywood, our city council, our city staff are very accessible.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to know more about the Los Angeles Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, go to the laglcc.org. You can find out a lot of really amazing local businesses to check out on their directory. You can also follow Marquita and see what she does all about. She does some amazing stuff where she posts lots of live videos, talks about different things. You'll probably be tweeting and posting live from the conference for the National Gay and Lesbian Conference in Vegas, so you can check out that. Make sure to check out GayLifeLA.com for all your LGBT Los Angeles needs and news. And also, we want to thank again White Rabbit Partners for this great studio here. And if you haven't yet, get your magazine. But thank you, Marquita, again. I really appreciate it. And thank you for giving us an amazing perspective on not just the business community, but the greater Los Angeles area for our LGBT owned and run businesses.
Right. And thank you guys for being members.
No, fantastic. We really appreciate it. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Tune in next week for an amazing episode. We have Anita Procedure, who is my favorite drag queen. Don't tell her any other drag queen. She's my favorite. But for my favorite drag queen out here, she's going to be on board. We're really excited. So we'll catch you next week. Same time, 5 p.m. Thank you so much. Bye.